Hey everybody, Rosematter here. Welcome to part 11 of my Steins Gate Zero Let's Play. In the last episode, we began a new playthrough, doing a new route, and already things are quite different. So we left off in December when Kirisu calls Okabe. And in this playthrough, we turned off the phone. So this one seems to be geared more towards, like, ignoring Amadeus. At least that seems to be the case. This is definitely more focused on Kagari. We are getting information about her much earlier in the story. She's kind of at the forefront with Suzuha telling them about Kagari and how she is looking for her, and Okabe and Daru have agreed to help out. Yeah, things are slightly different. Maho is also much more forthcoming about information. She said straight up that she's trying to not hack into, but she's trying to get into Kirisu's laptop, and she was asking for Okabe's help with that. Whereas before she was much less forthcoming with that information. And the big thing is that Daru enlisted the help of Moeka. So Moeka basically was just very briefly seen at the beginning of the first playthrough when she was doing an interview with Maho and Dr. Leskinen, but here she is helping out with finding Kagari because she is working for she's a journalist, but she also kind of like helps Daru out with finding stuff like on the deep web and just information, things like that. So she's going to be helping us, and Okabe is understandably hesitant about this. He still doesn't trust her, and I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I also feel like there's that kind of residual distrust as well, and I think that's what is really cool about Steins Gate Zeros, because you play the first one, you had the preconceived notions of these characters, so you kind of bring your biases in, even though this is a different timeline, and she could be completely innocent, and she has nothing to do with the Rounders or anything. So that adds definitely some interesting dynamic to things. So let's continue on, and let's see what this route has in store for us. The Japanese office of the Global Brain Science Comprehensive Research Organization in Wako City, Saitama. Maho Hyojo had tried her best to hold back a yawn, but in the end she'd given up and opened her mouth so wide it covered well over half her face. One reason was that she'd gotten caught up in talking to Kirisu last night and only ended the conversation after it was late into the night. At first, they'd been discussing the research and experiments she'd been doing, but at some point she'd gotten sidetracked into talking about Rintaro Okabe. Evidently, he'd been ignoring calls from Kirisu for the last few days. Ooh. Okay, so, now I'm curious about what would happen if I'd answered the call. Like, obviously this would be different. Kirisu was much madder at him than she was when he'd ignored her the first 8 times. It was the first sign of femininity she'd ever seen from Kirisu Makise. It was cute enough that Maho couldn't help but take the chance to get back at her for all the teasing she always did. She ended up staying a lot later than she'd intended. And since she was too energized to sleep by that point, she'd gotten out Kirisu's old laptop. She started to fiddle with it to see if there was some way to crack the password. And the next thing she knew, it was morning.
Password. ねえ。やっぱりプロにでも頼んだ方がいいのかしら。
何の話だい?
Okay, so she hasn't brought it to Daru yet. She suddenly heard a voice behind her and almost jumped out of her chair.
そんなに驚くことないじゃないか。
教授、戻ってたんですか?
ついさっきね。
He raised up his hand and showed her some plastic bags from a nearby convenience store. He'd left to go get lunch just 10 minutes ago, and she'd been sure he wouldn't be back for a while.
それにしても、日本のコンビニは食べ物の種類がいっぱいで本当に素晴らしいね。
I really wanna, that's my goal in life. Not to go to Japan just to check out the convenience stores, but I would like to see them in person.
毎日違う弁当を食べても、
I've seen
1週間もすればすぐに
videos of
新しい弁
someone
当
who,
が出る。
they took a trip and they ate exclusively at convenience stores. It's really impressive compared to what we get here, which I would not trust convenience store box lunches or cooked food at all.
しかも 店によっても味が違うから、毎日コンビニでも飽きないよ。
コンビニのお弁当ばかり食べていると栄養偏りますよ。
ははは。それでもアメリカの食事に比べればかなりヘルシーだよ。第一、食事についてのお説教だけは魔法には言われたくないね。
He was right. Nutrition wasn't an important consideration for Maho. In fact, she ate mostly cereal and meal replacement shakes, which made her diet very unhealthy.
ところで、何をプロに頼むって？
I like that though. It's just a thing where it's like she is a scientist. She doesn't, in her mind, like she probably eats just enough to just keep her going. She doesn't want to cook stuff. She just wants to have something that's as easy and quick to get down as possible. So.
ああ、あれはなんでもないです。なんでも。
It wouldn't bother her if Leskinen found out. But for some reason, she suddenly decided not to tell him. Maybe she knows. Maybe she subconsciously is aware of what happened in the previous timeline as well, and she knows that he can't be trusted.
そうかい？私でできることなら力になるよ。
ありがとうございます。その時はお願いします。
She stood up and headed for the door.
マホ、どこへ行くんだい？
気分転換も兼ねて秋葉原に行こうかと。
気分転換で行くにしては随分遠いね。リンタロウに会いに行くと素直に言えば許可しよ
う。そんなんじゃ。
違うのかい？
ついでに会いに行ってもいいですけど。
Okabe had a laboratory in Akihabara. Kirisu had told her that last night. She'd said something about how he'd been avoiding it for a long time and only recently started going there again. Maho was a little interested in it too.
言っときますけど違いますからね。そういうのじゃないですからね。
私はまだ何も言ってないよ。
というわけで、今日は研究は休みます。
リンタロウによろしく。
First Kirisu and now the professor. Why did they keep trying to make everything about romance?
っていうか、ああいうのもセクハラよね。今の世の中じゃ。
For one thing, she wasn't going to Okabe's lab just to visit him. She wanted to see him again and see if she could get any hints about the password. He had said he didn't know, but he'd probably be able to come up with more than she could on her own. That was what she thought after seeing how he interacted with Amadeus. You could call it a woman's intuition. She was thinking about that when she changed trains and got off at Akihabara Station. She felt like someone was watching her and spun around. It was a weekday, but the station was crowded. See, once again, she did not even have these thoughts at all, or at least, maybe she did, but she seemed pretty surprised when the MIB were after her. But I feel like she might have some leftover or some hints of a memory that might have transferred over. She looked around at all the people, but none of them seemed to be paying her much attention.
気のせいよね。
She whispered to no one in particular. She started to walk again. Kirisu had told her the location of the future gadget lab. She wasn't that familiar with the layout of Akihabara, but if she needed to, she could ask her for directions. But what if she came in unannounced and Okabe wasn't there? That bothered her a little, but she decided she could just leave if that happened. Her eyes lingered on the junk parts lined up in the bins at the shops as she walked, when... She felt someone looking at her again, but when she turned around, she still didn't see anyone. She started walking again, then went around a corner into an alley. And then she was sure of it. Footsteps. She could hear them behind her. Of course, that was nothing special. She would often be out walking at night and hear footsteps behind her. She'd speed up her pace, only to see an irritated man walk past a moment later. But this time, for some reason, she was sure it wasn't that. She decided to try walking faster, and found the footsteps went faster too. When she went slower, so did they. Whenever she saw a scene like this in a movie, she imagined she'd just kick the guy in the face. Now that it was actually happening, she was too scared to turn around. She fumbled for the phone in her pocket. The idea of calling the police never occurred to her. The only thing she thought of was the name of the man she was trying to meet. She picked it out of her call history and pressed the button with trembling fingers.
Onegai.
The footsteps overlapped with the sound of the ringing.
Okabe-san, tasukete!
The footsteps were almost on top of her, just when she couldn't take it anymore and was about to start running.
Moshi.
She heard a voice coming from the other side of the phone.
Moshi, Okabe-san! Watashi, Hiyajou desu! Ima, anata no labo no sugu chikaku made...
Oh, but she didn't get to say another word. By the time she'd realized someone had grabbed her from behind, the phone had already slipped from her hands. Oh shit, well, this escalated. I asked Kiryu as I took the paper she offered me silently. She'd contacted Daru just 10 minutes ago and told him she was on her way to the lab. And she'd arrived right at the time she said she would. She must have been very close when she'd contacted him. What was she going to do if no one was here? Evidently, it was a report about her investigation thus far. The stack of papers was shaking a little in my hands. I still felt some unease when Moeka was in my presence. Maybe it was just because of the anxiety meds I'd taken right after she'd said she was coming, but I was still doing a lot better than yesterday.
どう？おじさん。
やっぱりそう簡単に見つかるもんじゃないな。
そう。
She must have been expecting something, at least a little. There was an obvious tone of disappointment in her voice.
かがり、どこで何してるんだろう。
With no way to answer her, I just silently flipped through the pages of the report.
どうしたん、オカリン？なんか有力な手がかりでもあったん？
いや、そういうわけじゃないんだが。
見せて。
I handed the report over to Suzuha without complaint. I pointed to the part that interested me with my finger.
調査の中で一つ興味深い事実が浮かび上がった。この 1,2 ヶ月の間で椎名かがりという名の女性を探している人物が私たち以外にも存在するらしいということ。どういうこと？読んだままの通り。
Which meant... My phone started ringing before I could finish the thought. Alright, we're gonna answer right away. Normally, I just ignore her and call back later, but...
悪い。ちょっといいか。
For some reason, I had to answer. That's what it felt like.
もしもし。
もしもし、岡部さん。私、ヒヤジョウです。
She sounded on the verge of panic, and my voice naturally rose to match hers.
どうした、ヒヤジョウさん。
今、あなたのラボのすぐ近くまで。
Immediately afterward, I heard what sounded like a struggle, and then something hitting something else.
ヒヤジョウさん、ヒヤジョウさん、どうした？
And then there was only silence. Well, she's right near the lab. Like, get out and see if you can find her.
何かあったん？
It's probably too late. She's probably been whisked away in a car by now. From the tone of her voice, it was obvious something bad had happened.
知り合いが誰かに襲われてる。
マジ？知り合いって誰？
But I didn't stay to answer his question. I grabbed the nearest thing that could serve as a weapon and ran out of the lab. Get Suzuha on this, she'll be able to kick their ass. What if it's Kagari, though? I was like, who could it be? Could be all sorts of people. Could just be the MIB. Well, the thing is, like, she said where she was going. She told Dr. Leskinen, but I don't think he would just straight up, like, have someone go after her. It's like there would be no need for that because he's close to her already. She said she was close to... Like, the smart thing to do would be Like, if he knew that she was trying to hack Kirisu's laptop, is like, have her do all the work and then take the laptop after. She said she was close to the lab. She was coming from the station and had chosen a route that not many people would go down. She was probably the alley directly in front of the lab. I saw someone there. They were tall and slender, and I could see a tiny silhouette struggling behind them. That was... I knew it. The only girl I knew that size was Maho. Oh, is that just someone hugging her? Like, thinking, like, who is that? Someone had grabbed her and she was trying desperately to escape. She really does look like a little child when in those CGs. He's got like a lightsaber? The person who was holding her turned in surprise at my voice. Is that her mom? She said she had family in Japan, right? It was only then that I realized it was a woman and she wasn't Japanese. Oh.
Okabe-san?
What is going on here? Suspicious woman. Did she not understand me? I was like, no, if that was Maho's mom, she would know immediately that that's her mom. She shouldn't be able to guess what I was getting at. I tried to strike a threatening pose with a weapon in my hand. I finally realized what I'd brought was the Sealum saber. Still, it would serve as a bluff. Okay, so Maho knows her then? It wasn't? It wasn't like what? Look at her little shoe! Oh, it's her. I mean, she's not good. Why is she hugging her like that? The woman let go of Maho and smiled. She walked towards me with her arms open wide.
Are you Maho's boyfriend?
What's her name, like Judy something? Reyes? Before I could ask what was going on, she'd wrapped her hands around my back and given me a firm hug. I had no idea what the hell was going on, but the two soft objects pressed in my chest kept me from moving. Oh my gosh, she just looks... When you see them next to each other, Maho does look tiny, or she looks like a giantess, just humongous.
I'm Judy. Judy Reyes. Pleasure meeting you, Mr. Okabe.
A woman named Judy Reyes offered me her hand, her broad smile like the sun itself.
Nice to meet you.
日本語でいいわよ。
教授って日本語喋れたんですか？
ええ、実はね。
知らなかった。でもどうして？
女も私くらいの年になるといろいろあるのよ。
That's a very vague answer. It's like, probably you can speak Japanese because you're working with, you know, like Japanese doing something, right? Suspicious. Her mischievous wink looked pretty good on her.
それじゃあ改めて。ジュディレイエスよ。よろしくね。
It's funny. Okay, so like, she's not my girlfriend, but do you want to be my girlfriend? He seems a little smitten with her just based on the description. I returned her handshake.
Okabe Rintaro です。
レイエス教授は今度日本で開かれる AI 関係の学会に出席するために来日したんですって。
教授っていうことはビクトル・コンドリア大学の？
サイコフィシオロジーを研究してるわ。
サイコフィ
精神生理学のことよ。つまり脳の活動によってもたらされる心の働きとか心の病気なんかについての研究をされているの。そういう意味では私たちの研究よりもずっと人の役に立つ研究をされていると言っていいかもしれないわね。
そんなことないわ。あなたたちのアマデウスだってこれからの発展次第では十分に役に立つ技術になるわよ。
そう言っていただけると嬉しいです。
In short, Dr. Reyes had happened to see Maho on the streets of Akihabara, decided to surprise her by grabbing her from behind.
でも
As a woman, you should know that that is
Reyes
not a good way to say, like, to greet another, like, You shouldn't greet anyone like that, especially like down a dark alley, but especially not a girl who, she's not a little girl, but she's definitely not going to be the type to be able to defend herself. That's just not good.
つける魔法私が
Also, like, why would you not just call out to her instead of coming up behind and hugging
後ろ
her?
をついてきてましたよね、ずっと。
So she's not even like aware that she did that?
そんなことしてないわ。私はさっきそこのショップでたまたま魔法を見つけたから、ちょっと驚かそうと思っただけよ。
So either Reyes is lying, or someone else was watching Maho. Or Maho is just imagining things. Maho had only just relaxed when Dr. Reyes' answer drained the face of its color.
ヒヤジョーさん、つけられていたのか？
ええ、確かにそう感じたんだけど。
レイエス教授、誰か怪しい人物を見かけたりは？
Dr. Reyes denied it with that unique shrug that foreigners always do. I looked back over the alley, but of course I didn't see anyone.
じゃあ、私の勘違いだったのかしら。
きっとそうだわ。だって日本は世界一治安のいい国でしょ。
Maybe Reyes has like someone following Maho just to like keep tabs on her since she's got the laptop. Was it?
魔法はこの後どうするの？
私は
Reyes seemed to sense something in Maho's silence.
なるほど、そういうこと。それじゃあ私は行くわね。リンタロもそのうちゆっくり話しましょう。バイ。
She gave me a meaningful wink as she left. The station was in the opposite direction. Should I have said something? I got a strange sense she was feeling me out, but it seemed like a waste of time to resist.
というわけで、彼女がヒヤジョーさんだ。ほら、前にセミナーで会ったって話したことがあっただろ。
お騒がせしてごめんなさい。
I ended up taking Maho back to the lab where everyone was waiting for my return. Suzuha had actually gone out once to look for me, but evidently by that time I was already gone.
ま、でも何事もなくてよかった。
After I gave an introduction and an explanation, everyone let out a sigh of relief. Maho seemed to want to ask a lot of questions about the lab, but I had something I had to finish first.
すまん。どこまで
Oh
話したんだ
shit,
った
and
か。
then Mocha's there too. I'm sure Mocha's gonna get roped into all this thing with Maho and whoever's stalking her, and it's all gonna jumble together.
他にもカガリタンを探してる人間がいるって話。
Or Maho's gonna get herself involved.
それだ。それは本当なんですか、桐生さん。
本当。
I looked back down at Mocha's reports where she'd written all the details. She'd even hired a private investigator to check it out, which meant that it was probably true.
それが鈴葉という可能性はないんだろうか。
それは私も考えた。でも
探していたのは男の人。中には外国人も。
Foreigners. Why would they be looking for Kagari?
こっちでかがりと関わりがあるのは私だけだ。それなのに一体誰が？
Could it be CERN? Also the way she says in this time, right? If Mocha, like, she's still around her and there's the whole thing with, like, trying to find evidence of time travel. The thing Suzuha just said might have tipped her off. Maybe CERN realized she was from the future and had gone looking for her. But if that was the case, then Mocha would have to know about it. No, the Rounders were all given their orders individually, so it would make sense if she didn't know what the others were up to.
椎名かがりはこっちに来てもう12年にもなる。その間知り合いができたとしてもおかしいことじゃないな。
つうか、むしろ誰かの世話にならないと生きていけないっしょ。
That's true.
つまりこの報告からわかるのは、椎名かがりを知る何者かがここ最近何らかの理由から彼女を探しているということと、少なくとも最近まで椎名かがりは生きていたっていうことだ。
あ、そっか。
Unless they could travel through time like Suzuha, if they were looking for her, that meant that they'd known where she was until she disappeared. If people had started looking for her in the last few months, that meant she'd been alive until then. There was nothing else to be learned from Mooka's report.
どうする？
引き続き調査をお願いできますか？
If people were looking for Kagari and Akihabara, that meant she might still be here.
わかった。
Mooka took her payment for the work she'd done so far and left the lab. Daru had paid the bill. It seemed that when his future daughter was at stake, he was willing to spend money.
人を探しているの？
Maho had been looking around the lab with interest.
ああ、ちょっと知人をな。
It worried me that some of the people looking for Kagari Shina weren't Japanese. Oh, let's see. Oh, Mayuri. Hey, Okurin, what time are you getting home today? Is something going on? I shouldn't be that late. I won't be coming home tonight. I'll just say, something going on? I met your mom and she asked me to cook tonight. But she has to go to a meeting for the shopping street and she wasn't sure what to do for dinner. So She said she'd do the cooking and she said that was okay. Are you sure? You're busy too, aren't you, Mayuri? You don't have to do it. It's fine. I'll make something good. Come home soon. She's a peach. I see. Really? Seriously? I'll be waiting. Even outside of CERN, there were people all over the world who jumped at the chance to learn more about the time machine. If they somehow learned Kagari was from the future, that could mean she was caught up in some kind of trouble.
それじゃオカリン、そろそろ冷や上司のことを詳しく。
Nikuishk. That is definitely a phrase, a term I do not know. Okay, a net slang shortening of kuwashiku, or give me the details, used when you want more information about something. I guess it'd be like us saying, like, give us the deets.
詳しくって言われても前に説明したぞ。
She was Dr. Leskinen's assistant, and both she and the professor had been very good to me. I was helping with their work a little. I told him all this before.
例えば冷や上司がこのラボのメンバーに加わってくれる的な超展開はありますか？
I don't think that's out of the question. It could happen. Super development in a game, anime, novel, or etc. refers to something that happens which completely ignores the plot and foreshadowing that occurred up until then. The super development instead takes the story in a completely new direction. Similar to the phrase deus ex machina, these completely unexpected plot developments leave viewers bewildered and struggling to keep up. Sometimes it feels like that when I play some of these games.
ないだろう。
Usually there's pretty good hints up until it, or it's like if you watch it back or you play another like a route or something, you're like, ah, okay.
じゃあせめて魔法タンと呼んでもいいですか？つうか呼ぶ！
魔法タン？
あれ？名前間違ってた？
そうじゃなくて、その変な呼び方に引っかかったの。
でも魔法タンは魔法タンって感じじゃん。
What is
なあ、オ
the
カリン。
suffix ton? Like, what is that? Is that something, is that maybe a childish one? Like, because she looks like a child? Is he implying, is that why she's so upset about this? Because he's, disrespecting her by kind of infantizing her?
俺に振るな。
とにかくその呼び方はやめて。
だが断る。
He never changes, does he?
それで冷や嬢さん、今日はどうしてラボに？俺、ここのことは君に話したかな？
アマデウスに教えてもらったわ。今日は本来は話したいことがあったのだけれど、まあいいわ。噂のラボを見ることができたし、それになんだかあなたたちも大変みたいだから。
ひょっとしてあいつ怒ってたか？
ええ、とても怒ってたわ。連絡しても出ないって。
That's exactly what I expected, yeah.
え？何？それ何の話？
別に浮いた話じゃないからいちいち反応するなって。
岡部さん、やっぱり辛いの？だったらテスターやめてもらっても。
あ、いや、そういうわけじゃないんだ。
Interesting too, whereas like in the last one, Maho was very upset when when Okabe said he wanted to stop. I hated how I was starting to feel dependent on her.
また気が向いた時にでも話してあげて。あの子も寂しが
What?
って
He's
る
saying
わ
he's dependent on her, but he's actually ignoring her calls. If he picked up every time she wanted to talk, that would be more concerning. But he does seem to actually be trying to balance out his, relationships, his real life relationships, and Amadeus.
わかった。
The word lonely made my heart ache a little. But even so, I still didn't talk to Kirisu that day. Several days had passed since Mocha had given her report. Oh, it's almost Christmas. Are we still having the Christmas party in this one? I checked last night, and evidently there was nothing new to say. She had her deadlines for her magazine, she said, and couldn't spend a lot of time on it. That other group of people who were searching for Kagari Shina concerned me, but I couldn't ask her to prioritize it over her own work.
マユシーはとっても残念なのです。
ん？もしかしてクリスマスパーティーの話か？
楓さんと吹雪ちゃん、用ができちゃったって。フェリスちゃんはお仕事で、ナエちゃんも店長さんと過ごすことになってて、ダルくんはユキさんと遊びに行くんだって。
Well, look at Daru actually going out. Look at that. Maybe all of them, like Daru realized from the last one, the last route is like, oh shoot, I gotta get my butt in gear and get this relationship with Yuki going because he kind of botched it last time.
結構なことじゃないか。
I'd heard Suzuha had gone through a lot of work to set that up. She was always complaining that Daru wasn't making his intentions clear with Yuki. From Suzuha's perspective, her own existence was at stake. Even if it was already fated to happen, something still might interrupt it. More than anything, she probably wanted to see her mom and dad getting along in this peaceful world. So who we got then? So there's Rintaro, Mayuri, Suzuha maybe, though she doesn't really seem to be into the parties. Yeah, not a whole heck of a lot of people come to this party. Even if Maho and Dr. Leskin didn't show up to this one, I was like, it's going to be kind of a sad party. If something came out of this, it would probably make her feel better.
マユリもクリスマスは家で過ごした方がいいんじゃないのか？この前、おじさんがケーキを予約してたぞ。
お父さんに会ったの？
家の近くでばったりな。マユリをびっくりさせるために、大きいのを予約するんだって張り切ってた。
Well, not anymore.
そっか。
Oh, that's a bummer. No Christmas party this time. But it was at the Christmas party that first... Well, in that world, it was kind of the first bout of reading Steiner in this one. Well, that's not necessarily true. No, we got the reading Steiner early in this one. That's right. That's when he was like on the bridge and he saw Kaide and Fubuki.
あ、言っとくが、今のは聞かなかったことにしてくれ。せっかくのおじさんのサプライズ
So
だから
maybe
な。
Okabe will spend it with Maho at Kirisu's insistence.
わかったよ。でも、オカリンはどうするの？クリスマス。
特に予定はないかな。うちはもともとそういうことする家でもないし。
The guys at school were having a men-only drinking party, but I hadn't been invited. Oh, that's sad. I kept telling them she wasn't, but they insisted on thinking Mayuri was my girlfriend. Some of them had it out for me because of that. Oh no, he's becoming a normie.
確か、サンタさんにプレゼントが欲しいって言ったら、朝枕元にお野菜が置いてあったんだよね。
どう見ても前の日の売れ残りのな。クレームをつけたら、うちはキリスト教じゃねえって逆ギレされた。
Honestly, I'm amazed I actually grew up all right. Well, if you could call how I ended up all right.
クリスマスが終わったら、コミマがあって、そしたらもうお正月。1年あっという間だね。
そうだな。
It hadn't flown by for me at all. I'd gone through the same span of days again and again. For me, the year had been unimaginably long.
そうだ。ねえオカリン、クリスマスパーティーはできないけど、 お正月パーティーをするのはどうかな。みんなで初詣に行って、それからおせち料理を食べて、今年もよろしくって言って。
ああ、いいんじゃないか。
だよねだよね。うん。
That's cute. I love she's all disappointed. She's like, that's okay. I'm just going to put my energy into something else. And she just bounces right back. That is admirable. I would be so upset if I was trying to make plans and then everything fell through. It's something I'm working on. I have trouble with that sometimes. It's like whenever there's plans, especially plans I'm excited for, and then they don't work out, it really tends to bum me out for a bit. Mayuri stood up to go.
さてと、マユシーはこれからお買い物に行ってきます。
買い物？
ふぶきちゃん用のコスでね。急に
Also, strange to have a convention right around Christmas. Maybe Christmas isn't as big of a thing in Japan, but they still seem like it's celebrated, in a pretty big way there. It's like, that's, kind of a weird time. You think that most people, the holidays, they'd be like with family, maybe they'd be traveling away. It just seems like a strange time to have a convention.
そうか。気をつけて行ってこいよ。
Like where I am, we have there's a mini Christmas convention, but that's before Christmas. It's so people can go and do their shopping beforehand.
そうだ、オカリン。ルカ君がね、オカ
That's
リン
right,
に何
Lukako. And then
か
I
相
kind
談
of
が
shut
ある
him
みたい
down.
な
I said I
の。
was busy.
あ、
That's right. Lukako had called me. After that, Mocha had come, and so much had happened I'd forgotten. Knowing Lukako, since I told him I'd call him back, he'd probably been waiting for me this whole time. Oh, Lukako, you sweet little angel. Ugh.
わかった。こっちから連絡を取ってみる。
お願いね。じゃあ、行ってきまーす。
And Lukako is definitely not the type to, call back or text and be like, hey, so, can we talk about that thing I want to talk about? He'd be the type to be like, he told me he was going to call me back, so I'm not going to bother him. I'm just going to wait. Mayuri put on her coat, waved, and went out the... Alright, I should get in touch with Lukako. So, he wanted to talk to me. What could it be about, I wonder? He wasn't going to tell me he wanted to be a girl again, was he? Okay, am I going to have to actually... Do I... Oh, I should call, actually. Yes. So what would happen if I just didn't... If I didn't do this, would I just be like, you know what? Actually, I'll talk to him later. Lukako isn't picking up. Oh well. Hopefully he's okay. I'd have to send him a rhyme. I typed in my message and sent it. Sorry, I forgot all about yesterday. And then I waited a while for a response to come back. Oh, there's something wrong. Maybe the person that visited his family, something's happened to him. I always assume the worst. I should stop doing that. I think the game wants me to do that, and then maybe he's going to end up fine. There was no sign of him even reading the rhyme message. And we know Lukako, he would be right on it if someone messages him, he'd probably get back to them as soon as he could. He's just that type of person. Was he busy with something? For a moment, I thought of going to the shrine to see, but if he was busy, I didn't want to bother him. He'd contact me when he had time. Just when I was thinking about that, I heard footsteps coming up the stairs outside the lab. It didn't sound like Daru. Daru's steps were a lot heavier.
どうぞ。
Hey! Speak of... I'm not going to say the devil because he's an angel.
ルカ子。
よかった。岡部さん、ここにいてくれて。
It was Lukako, the boy I had just been trying to get a hold of.
すまない。この前の件すっかり忘れてたんだ。それでさっき電話したんだが。
え？あ、本当だ。ごめんなさい。僕の方こそ気づかなくて。
He looked guilty, as if he'd done something wrong.
いや、別にいいよ。それより寒いだろ。入ってくれ。
あ、はい。
But he hesitated, seemingly distracted by something behind him.
岡部さん、相談の件なんですけど、実はその前に
Sorry, he wanted to talk in
会って
person,
もらい
didn't
たい
he?
人がいて、 連れてきたんですけど。
Okay, so this is the
いい
person.
ですか？
Okay, this is the person. Oh, I wonder if it's... Is it Kagari? No, I think you said it was like somebody older. I think it was a man. But this must be the person that who's been like staying at the shrine.
会ってもらいたい人？
Lukako moved slightly to the side. And a girl appeared behind him.
はじめまして。
Do we actually get to see Kagari? What? It is impossible. The girl there was...
Kirisu.
No, it's not. It's Kagari, who looks just like Kirisu. Nope. I hate to say it, but you can tell by the boobs. Also the face. The face looks a little bit more stern, but the boobs, that's not Kirisu. Also for many other reasons, like she's dead.
よろしくお願いします。
And also sounds nothing like her. She would not be quite so demure. She almost sounds like a robot.
どうぞ。
ありがとうございます。
Yeah, she sounds much less... Then again, she didn't really speak much when she was in her little biker outfit. But she's, I don't know, she just seems less assured, self-assured. I offered her a cup of tea I poured out of a plastic bottle, and she thanked me in a voice that was almost impossible to hear. For my part, it was all I could do to keep the hand holding the cup from trembling. I took another good look at the girl sitting across from me.
似てる。
Not like Lukako. The girl in front of me looked just like Kirisu Makise. I like even at the beginning when when you see the opening like the cutscene where it shows, I was like the girl when she was a young girl. I think they may have shown her when she was older. I was like, that looks just like Kirisu. Her brown hair, her slightly slanted eyes, her unconcerned expression. Right now, there was no sign of her strong-willed nature, but other than that, they were identical. When I'd first seen her, my heart felt like it was going to stop. But on closer inspection, some parts were different. Like the size of her breasts. Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Glad I don't seem quite so pervy. Was she about our age? She looked older than Lukako. I knew Lukako had a sister. Could this be her? She had a quiet air about her that seemed similar to Lukako. But I thought I remembered hearing that Lukako's sister was actually quite cheerful.
Okabe-san?
いや、それで、
So if this is the person that's been staying at the shrine, she must know that people are after her and she needs a place to kind of hide.
ルカ子？
ああ、失礼。俺はそう呼んでるんです。その、女の子みたいだから。
I just realized it was a pretty rude nickname, but it was a habit now and there was no changing it.
そうなんですね。
Her expression softened, just a little. She really did look just like her. I took a shallow breath and forced myself to relax.
で、ルカ子、この人は？
その前に話したことがありましたよね。お父さんのお客さんが泊まってるって。
Yeah, I guess. Okay, yeah. They never specify whether it was an older man. Everyone just assumed that was the case because of, Luca's father's age.
ああ、聞いたけど。
And he also said that they had very
それじゃあ、もしかして彼女が？
interesting conversations with each other.
はい。
That was a surprise.
ルカ子の父親の知り合いというから、てっきりもっと年配
He
の人
hasn't
かと
made
思
the
ってい
connection.
た。
He hasn't made the connection yet that that's Kagari. He see the picture of her, right? Suzuha showed a picture of her when she was younger. I guess he hasn't quite connected the dots yet.
違うんです。正確に言うと、お父さんの知人が連れてこられた方で。
おお。
So this wasn't the person who was talking about Harumi. That made me feel a little better.
それで相談というのはこの人についてなんですけど。
その前に名前を教えてもらってもいいかな。いつまでもこの人じゃ話しにくいだろ。
Her face clouded. Did I say something wrong?
実は相談というのはそのことなんです。この人が 誰なのかを
Does Kagari
その
honestly not know who
知
she
るには
is? Or does she
ど
have
うした
like
ら
some sort of amnesia?
いいでしょう
I
か
doubt it. I think she's just being secretive. It took a moment before I understood what he said.
待ってくれルカ子
Maybe
そ
she
れは
does have
どういう
amnesia.
記憶喪失
Oh,
なんだそうで
can't
す
can't have these games without someone having amnesia, right? It's just check off the tropes.
記憶喪失
I guess if you do time leap, you know, you might lose your memories here and there.
はい
And that's why she seems so, I don't know, I guess different than the last time.
それじゃあ
Because she definitely
名前も
remembered Mayuri.
はい
Maybe something happened to her. Maybe someone got her from the, what is it called? The physiopsychology or whichever one it is, where it's like maybe they somehow found her and they removed some of her memories because they know who she is.
どこの誰かも
はい
She does sound a lot like Luca.
わかりません
A little bit like Luca, a little bit like Mooka, just a very kind of flat. Luca's not flat. I mean, Luca is flat, but I mean like Luca's more kind of shy and unsure of himself when he speaks rather than flat. Of course not. If she knew, she wouldn't have amnesia.
でもどうして俺に
And that's why people haven't been able to find Kagari, is because Kagari doesn't even know that she's Kagari.
岡部さんなら記憶を取り戻すいい方法を知っているんじゃないかと思ってほら岡部さんよく人間の脳とか記憶とかすごく難しい話をたくさんしてたから何でもいいんです私が自分のことを取り戻せる方法があれば
待ってくれ確かに
Oh, I
そうい
wonder
う
if they're
話
gonna
はしてい
bring
たが
her to
そ
Dr.
れはただ
Luskin
興味
and
がある
Maho.
だけで専門的
Or
なことは何も
Judy Reyes. I mean, the fact that Judy introduced herself, they said, you know, what she does, I feel like she's gonna encounter them. I knew how the brain worked and how it was laid out. And I knew what amnesia was. But bringing back someone's memories was a different matter. Even the latest medical technology would be useless. Unless, of course, you had your memories stored on a system like Amadeus.
そうですか
The girl was visibly disappointed.
だったら何か身元を調べることはできないでしょうかかなさん本当に辛そうで
Kana.
カナさん
仮の名前だからかなとルカさんのお父さんが名前がないと不便だからって
ずいぶん安直だな
Was that okay?
いつまでも名乗る名前でないのだからそれくらいの方がいいと
I couldn't tell if that was deep or not.
岡部さんなんとかならないでしょうかせめて名前だけでもわかれば
なんとか力になってはやりたいがやっぱり興信所なんかに頼んだ方がいいんじゃないのか
興信所探偵さんみたいなものですか
ああでもそれだって何か手がかりのようなものがないと厳しいだろう財布とかカバンとか持ってなかったのか
そういったものは何も
何も別に大したものじゃなくてもいい一つくらいありそうなものだけど
一つだけ
Oh, is it her
ただ
upa?
これが手がかりになるのか
It's
ど
gotta
う
be
か
the
は
upa. She slowly took out a handkerchief, as if it was something that was very important to her. Whatever was inside must have been the one thing she was carrying.
見せてもらっても
はい
Oh, and Myri. I bet Myri's be like, that's such a cute upa. Almost at the exact same time Kana opened the handkerchief, I heard Myri's soft voice from the front hall. Evidently, she was back from shopping. Maybe Kana, Kagari will have some sort of like, hear Myri's voice and have like some sort of spark or something going on in her head. But she won't quite be able to understand why. Suzuha was behind her too. Oh, Suzuha! Okay, so Suzuha... I'm gonna lose my mind if nobody, well, Suzuha especially, doesn't make that connection. Like, I know she hasn't seen Kagari since she was 10, but still. That was a rare combination. Had they run into each other on the way?
Ah, Mayuri-chan. Ah, Luka-kun. Luka-兄さん、そちらの人は?
No, she doesn't know.
うちに泊まっているお客さんで。
Kana bowed her head a little. For some reason, Mayuri gave a happy little sigh as she looked at the handkerchief in Kana's hands.
それ、ウーパですよね。
Inside of the white handkerchief was a faded Upa keychain.
好きなんですか? マユシーもね、ウーパのこと
I just love how,
大
like,
好きなのです。
these family members or people, like, close to each other in the future keep crossing paths with each other, like Suzuha with Yuki and Kagari with Mayuri.
もしかして手がかりというのはそれか?
It was an old Upa keychain. Was that really a clue?
でも、このウーパ、いつ頃のものかな?
Maybe they'll be able to make that connection where Mayuri's like, this either hasn't come out yet or it just came out. How does it look so old? And maybe they'll be like, oh my gosh, she must be from the future. It really did, come to think of it. Upa was a character from the Reyes Kokoru anime. Upa products had only been around a few years now. But the one I was looking at was very old. Please make that connection, please.
これ、もともとは緑
Okay, so
色
it
だ
has
っ
come
た
out
んじゃない
already.
かな。だってこれ、森の妖精さんバージョンだもん。
森の妖精さん?
この前やってた映画に出てきたんだ。あ、ほら、
So Mayuri has it, where in the last one she got it
このところのデ
in
ザインが
January.
ちょっと
Like
だ
she
け
got it
違
the
う
next
の。
year, maybe even the summertime of the next year, because Okabe bought it for her. I couldn't see any difference at all.
このキーホルダーね、なかなか売ってなくて。
Okay, so the things are changing, obviously. The
そ
like
したらこの
the
前、
events, how they're
ル
happening,
カ君が
and when
見
they're
つけて
happening.
買ってきてくれたの。ね。うん。たまたまお店を覗いたら売ってたから。
しかし妙だな。この前の映画の
Oh,
グッ
he's
ズな
saying,
ら
huh? Please?
発売してすぐのはずだ。
Please have the
こんなに
connection,
古くは。
please. Only then did I realize how pale Kana's face was.
大丈夫ですか? カナさん。
具合が悪いのか?
大丈夫。
Kana tried to stand up and almost fell forward. Lukako quickly grabbed her.
そうだ。何か冷たいものを。
I went to get a bottle of water out of the fridge when I noticed Suzuha was staring at Kana in shock.
鈴葉?
そう。
え?
Strangely, Kana wasn't the only one who was shaking a little. Suzuha was too.
嘘。それ。
Oh, right. Suzuha would remember the Upa. I'm so dumb. I didn't even make that connection. Of course she would remember the Upa.
どうしたんだ、鈴葉?
Then again, in the last one, it
知ってる。
took her a little bit of time to realize
そ
it
のウー
too.
パ、それ。
おい、鈴葉?
Kana staggered a few steps towards Suzuha, and then a few steps more. It couldn't be. No, there was just no way. But
もしかして、お前。かがり。
what?
お前はかがり？椎名かがりなのか?
Is she gonna run? Kana's eyes went wide. And she slowly collapsed to the floor. Okay, wow. The orbital eclipse. I was not expecting her to pop up so soon. We are, what, three parts into the second route. Granted, I know I skipped a good chunk of it, but still, this is wild that this is happening so soon.
どうだ少しは落ち着いたか
はい、おかげさまで。
Kana had passed out after hearing the name, Kagari Shina, from Suzuha, but with help from Lukako and the girls, she woke up 10 minutes later. Is she gonna tell everybody? Is she gonna tell Mayuri, like, I am your future adopted daughter? But she still didn't look very good.
ルカ子、それにマユリ、すまないが、
Okay, yeah, they
何
gotta
か冷
go.
たいものを買ってきてくれないかそれから、額に貼る冷却シートのようなものもあると嬉しい。
I felt bad for Lukako, but I probably didn't want either of them hearing what we were about to discuss.
わかった。行こう、ルカ君。
Lukako seemed interested in hearing about what was going on, but still, he went along with Mayuri. What happened next was the problem.
カナさん。
かがり、お前、今までどこで何をしていた？
Suzuha opened her mouth the second Mayuri and Lukako left. Her words were as sharp as a knife blade, and Kana looked terrified.
一体どういう
Yeah,
つも
quite
り
the
であの
difference
時。
from when Kagari came at her and, like, tried to kill her and was actually almost able to.
待て、鈴葉。彼女は記憶を失ってる。
なんだって？
I explained what had brought Kana here. Alright, let's read the Rhine real quick. Ferris, I'm about to reveal an important secret to you, yeah? But I refuse. I don't know if that makes any sense. Come on, just let me say it. It's probably just more made-up nonsense, right? It's really hard keeping up. I love that they're just, like, waiting for me to finish this very important text message. It's really hard keeping up with all the stuff you say. Mia have changed, Okarin. Will you never go back to the old you? Will you never go back to being Kyoma? Yeah. I'm sorry.
記憶喪失。それじゃあどこで何をしていたかも。
ああ。でも、その前に確かめなければならないことがある。
Whether or not she was really Kagari Shina.
カナさん。
はい。
さっきしていた話は覚えてるか？
はい。
どうする？続きはもう少し回復してからにするか？
いえ、大丈夫です。
She was clutching her upa so hard her fingertips had gone white. But there was a light in her eyes as she looked up at Suzuha.
じゃあ、さっきの話を続けよう。鈴葉、お前が彼女をかがりだというその根拠は何だ？
そのウーパだよ。それはかがりが肌身離さず持ってたものなんだ。ママにもらったんだって、お守りだってずっと大事にしてた。
Kana slowly opened her hand. The tiny old upa was staring up at us with a silly look on its face. A present from her mom. A present from Mayuri.
カナさんはそのウーパだけが自分が持っていたものだって言っていたが。
はい。記憶をなくして倒れていた私がただ一つ手にしていたのがこのキーホルダーだったそうです。
I mean, the thing is, like, when did she wake up? Like, just recently? Because if she was a 10-year-old, maybe someone, maybe some sort of, like, scientist or underground, like, government thing or whatever, maybe they captured her and they were trying to extract her memories because they realized that she is, like, a time traveler and they wanted to get as much information from her as possible. And maybe she lost her memories in the meantime.
倒れていた？
はい。
どのあたりで倒れていたんだ？
千葉の参道です。県境あたりの。近くのお寺の住職さんが偶然通りかかって見つけてもらったそうで、その後しばらくはその方のお寺でお世話になっていたんです。ですが お寺は修行の場でもあるので、長く女性を置いておくこともできないと。
それでルカ子の家にというわけか。
はい。その住職さん、ルカ君のことを女の子だって思っていて、それで年の近い女の子のいる家なら私にとってもいいだろうって。盲点だった。まさかこんな近くにいたなんて。
The guest that Lukako had mentioned a few days ago was probably that priest, which means Kagari Shina had been there the whole time. We'd been searching blindly for her without any idea, and she'd been there the whole time. If only I had taken Lukako's call, we wouldn't have had to go through all this.
それでカナさん、君はカガリという名を聞いて何か思い出すことはないか？
正直を言うとよくわかりません。ただすごく懐かしい感じがします。それに
Kana's words cut off as she looked at Suzaha.
その先ほどの方、まゆ姉さんのこと？まゆ姉さん？
あの子は椎名真由里というんだ。
まゆりさん、あの方を見たとき、なぜだかすごく温かい気持ちになりました。
Even if she was Kagari Shina, she would only have known Mayuri after she'd grown up. But her appearance can't have changed that much, which meant that it would make sense that seeing her would stir some feelings within Kagari.
ねえ、それ、もう一度見せてもらってもいい？はい。
Kagari handed the old Upa over to Kana. Wait, what? I think they messed up a little bit. I think they meant Suzaha. She handed it to herself.
では、私はその椎名かがりという名前だったんでしょうか？
そうだな。まだ確証があるわけじゃないが、そう考えるのが妥当だと思う。
いや、間違いない。彼女はかがりだ。そのキーホルダーが何よりの証拠だよ。まゆ姉さんがかがりにあげたものなんだから。でもよりによって記憶喪失だなんて。
The keychain probably did belong to Kagari, but she also could have been gifted it by Kagari Shina, or she could have picked it up off the ground. Of course, Suzaha said that the keychain was very important to Kagari, and it was unlikely that she'd drop it or give it to someone, which meant... Then the door opened and Mayuri poked her head through to see what was going on. That's the saddest tuturu I've ever heard.
大丈夫ですか？
ああ、悪かったな、わざわざ。
いえ。
Were they eavesdropping? The drinks and cooling sheets were taken out of their plastic bags and put on the desk. Ferris, you really don't want to know, Nia? I don't know what that's supposed to represent. No need to think about it, Nia. If you don't find out now, when will you find out, Nia? Be true to your desires, Nia. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But I refuse. Oh, Korean, you're toying with poor little Ferris, aren't you, you Niati boy? And I bet the thing that she wants to tell him is very important and connected to this somehow, except he's refusing to listen, just like with Luca, where it's like he had very important information that was pertinent to our situation, and we just didn't listen, or we didn't get back to him. Lukako waited a moment for her to take a sip of the drinks he'd brought, and then spoke with a quavering voice.
かなさんは、その、あまねさんの知り合いの、かがりさんという方だったんでしょうか？
そうだな。そう考えるのが妥当だと思う。
Luca, you helped. He said that he wanted to, and he did.
そうですか。よかったです。名前だけでも分かって。ルカ君。
Kana, that is, Kagari, smiled gently when she saw how relieved Lukako was.
でも、 それならあまねさんはかがりさんの本当のお家を知っているんでしょうか？いや、それは
鈴葉はかがりさんと子供の頃ご近所だったそうだ。でも
Damn, that's a
12
pretty
年前に
good
引っ越してし
lie
まっ
on the.
て、それからの行方がわからなかったらしい。そうだな。
そうなんだ。それで最近急に懐かしくなってオカリンおじさんに相談してたんだよ。
そういうわけだ。だから鈴葉にもかがりさんの家族のことやどこに住んでいたのかはわからないらしい。
そうなんですか。
That was the only answer I could come up with. If we told Kagari she was a time traveler from the year 2036 who had come here 12 years ago, it would only confuse her.
あとは彼女が記憶を取り戻してくれれば何がどうなっていたのか全てわかるはずなんだが。
She'd learned her name and met both Suzuha and Mayuri. Mayuri's presence alone had to be a big deal.
かがりさん？はい。かがりさんの上のお名前はなんていうのかな？
About that.
さっきはよく
Mayuri's
聞
like,
こえ
maybe we're
なくて。
related somehow. Maybe you're a long lost cousin.
よかったら教えてほしいな。その岡部さんたちのお話だとシーナと。ああ、じゃあマユシーと一緒だ。マユシーもね、シーナっていうの。シーナマユリ。シーナマユリさん。嬉しいな。マユシー、同じ名字の人に会ったの初めてだよ。そうなんですか。だからこれからよろしくお願いします。はい、こちらこそよろしく
I
お願い
guess in
し
this
ま
route, it
す。
was like in the last one, it was Yuki meeting Suzuha and not realizing that that was her future daughter. And then in this case, we've got kind of the same thing. And that's why Yuki has just been kind of in the background. We've actually not really seen her at all so far this time around. Well, we know that she's around. She's hanging out with Daru. But she had her time in the last route, so now we have to focus. This is going to be Kagari's route, I'm assuming. Mayuri was using her natural cheerfulness to try and open up to Kagari. If it worked, maybe she could bring back her memories.
ルカ君から聞いたんだけど、かがりさんは記憶喪失なの？はい。それって自分が誰かも忘れちゃうってことなんだよね。はい。そっか。きっと辛いこといっぱいだよね。だって自分の大好きな人のことも忘れちゃうんでしょ？それってすごく悲しいことだってマユシーは思うのです。だからね、うまく言えないけど、マユシーもお手伝いするから。
She is just the sweetest thing. Mayuri smiled. Oh, I could see Kagari's eyes well up with tears.
急にどうしちゃったのかな。マユシ、何か変なこと言っちゃったかな。そうじゃないんです。ただマユリさんの言葉を聞いてなんだか嬉しくって。マユシーだけじゃなくオカリンもスズさんもルカ君もみんな同じ気持ちだよ。もちろんです。僕もできることがあれば何でもしますから。ありがとうございます、ルカ君、マユリさん。
I could leave Kagari to Mayuri and Lukako, and she'd be just fine. The question was what to do now.
ルカ子、 頼みがあるんだが。
なんでしょう。
かがりさんはもう少しお前の家に置いてもらってもいいだろうか。
え？
その間に俺たちは彼女が今までどうしていたのか
Well,
を調
that's the
べよう
thing
と
too,
思
is
う。
like, yeah, there's other people looking for Kagari, which is a problem because they're probably not good people. They don't have good intentions, so they want to, they would not think to go look at a shrine, right, for this missing girl.
はい、もちろんうちは構いません。
鈴葉もそれでいいか。
わかった。
Suzuha probably wasn't completely happy with that, but she nodded anyway. Our first priority now was getting back Kagari's memories.
それじゃあルカ君のお家に行けばかがりさんに会えるんだね。マユシーも遊びに行っていい？もちろんだよ。ね、かがりさん。はい。
鈴葉もできるだけ顔を出してやってくれ。その方が記憶を取り戻すにはいいだろう。
オーキードーキー。そうだ。クリスマスパーティーができないから、今ね、お正月パーティーをしようか
Oh,
な
that's
って
right.
思
And she
っ
wanted
て
to have
る
it
ん
at,
だ。
they said at the shrine, right?
かがりさんにも手伝ってもらえると嬉しいな。
Oh, I bet we're gonna get to see everybody in cute, like, kimonos for New Year's. Whenever they have, like, in visual novels and stuff, on New Year's, they always have the thing where, like, they go to festivals, like New Year's festivals, and they're wearing, like, the really nice, I believe it's kimonos or some sort of, like, dress, like, special dresses and stuff, and it always looks very nice.
いいんですか？私なんか。もちろんだよ。ね、ルカ君。うん。一緒にパーティーしましょう。
Anytime you got three girls together, they'd start chattering like birds. The girls, although one of them was a guy, began to chatter away. I had my own work to do. First, I had to let Moeka know that we'd found her. Do I have her phone number? I do too. All right. Call. Oh, right. She doesn't do phone calls, right? We found Kagari Shina. Knowing Moeka. Wait, so he's letting Ferris know? She'd respond almost immediately. Oh, they're in like a group chat. Yes? No? Oh, no, it's just showing it's like it's a different text. I was like, I was like, what is Ferris and Moeka? What are they doing together in a chat? We found Kagari Shino. No way, where? A friend who works at a shrine was taking care of her. She was found on a mountain path near the Chiba border, but she's lost her memories from before then. She was that close? Wow, I just love the difference between her in person and her in text. We all know people like that. I'm a little bit like that too. It's just like all of the exclamation marks and stuff. She's so much more expressive over text. We've been looking for whoever is after her, but we can't find any info. It may be a pretty big group. It'd be a big help if you could keep it up. Okay. I love that she has his his little emoji thing there. That was all I needed to do for Moeka. But I was still interested in the group who'd been looking for Kagari. And I also wanted to know what she was doing lying on a mountain path. What was she doing out there? And with only an Upa. Also, in the winter time, something really bad could have happened to her. She could have frozen. Could she have been running from someone?
ルカ子、ちょっといいか？
はい。なんでしょう。
かがりさんをなるべく神社の外に出さないでほしい。
どうしてですか？
理由は聞かないでくれ。頼む。
はい、わかりました。岡部さんがそう言うなら。
It couldn't hurt to be careful. If it was nothing, then that was fine. Once Kagari got her memories back, I'd know for sure. Nobody knew when that would be, though. Well, quite the revelation here. So pretty early on into this route, Kagari has shown up, and this is like I said, I am following a spoiler free walkthrough, so the names of the routes are like abbreviated or they just go by a letter. But I am assuming that this is going to be Kagari's route, or it's going to focus on her. Which makes sense considering that she was just a minor character. She was talked about a lot. We saw her briefly, but we didn't actually see her. But now she is full on out. And of course she has amnesia because, you know, you gotta have that with these types of games. So we've got, you know, something big happening here. And also the fact that, you know, Moeka is back, and there is also apparently a group of people who are also looking for Kagari. So how this is going to relate to the overarching story, the whole thing about her losing her memories. We've got people who are pretty big characters in this who work with the brain. Special shoutouts to my top tier patrons: Emily Hornsby, Salieri, Zoran Ether, Amp Deary, Revealing Storm, Icognito, Asborn Kennedy, Harry Gazith, and Jared Fan.